Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective, Big 12 Championship Week, here with John, fired up, horns up. We are ready to get to Arlington, and we will get to that in a second. I just want to briefly mention Kansas. We're not gonna do any Kansas review. Obviously, as Tom Herman said, it is all hands on deck for the Oklahoma Sooners. Now, in regards to the Kansas game, shout out to Jeffrey McCulloch. He had a monster game filling in for Gary Johnson. Actually made Pro Football Focus first team defense for the week nationally, which is really, really cool. So just wanted to give him a shout out. We are going to the game. And
we are.
Do we know where we're sitting at?
Section 126.
Cool. So section 126, if anybody's out there, on the recap video I did for Kansas, I basically turned it into a roll call, which I appreciate everybody that shouted out their section, where they're going to be, if they're coming to Arlington. So section 126, holler at us. We'll be up there bright and early, Arlington, Texas. We are ready to go. So getting to OU, getting straight to the point here. My first question to you is, what can we take away that could help us in this game from the Red River shootout that happened at the Cotton Bowl?
Okay, so offensively, we just need to do the same exact thing that we did last time.
There's a lot of good to take out of that game.
Take care of the ball, get it to our big monster receivers, and maybe hit Devin Duvernay on a couple of big passes, hopefully. Knock on wood. Defensively, the tape you want to watch is you want to watch the last 8 minutes of the game. That's where our season for our defense kind of went downhill. It was after those last 8 minutes, and then the next two games. We've been playing defense very well as of late.
Yes, we have recovered.
Personally, what I think we need to do is we just need to keep them in front of us, make them grind out possessions, because once you grind out possessions from a team that's used to getting easy scores, they start to force things. And
True.
I think that's what we did the first couple quarters, and I think we
generated two turnovers.
Yeah, we got an interception where we baited him into that throw, which he doesn't normally throw.
Got a fumble off of when he was trying to extend the play, hold the ball a little, just making him extend, not allowing him to just find open rushing lanes, because, as you saw later in the game, he turned into a punt return, right?
Yeah.
Had two guys run into each other. It was madness. And if I'm Oklahoma, I'm also looking at the Texas Tech Jet Duffy tape too, on how we lost contain. I think contain is going to be the word of the day for us on Saturday. Keeping him contained inside of the pocket, trusting coverage downfield. They're not always going to hold up. They're going to give up stuff. Is what it is. It's the Big 12. We all do. But if you look at,
phenomenal athlete.
And he is. That's why he's going to be in New York, guys. You look at West Virginia, though, they got into an up and down track meet with OU. And I think, to your point, and Tom Herman addressed this in the press conference, we've been one of the best teams in the country, 10-plus play drives, leveraging the clock. We're not a team that really generates a whole lot of big plays downfield. And that's okay, because the identity of our team, and I said this after OU, is strength, physical strength. And I think one of the things they can really draw from, and that would be reason for optimism as UT fans, is the push that they got on both sides of the ball. We won that game in the trenches in a lot of ways. And that is something that you can replicate when you play someone again.
Yeah, of course. That's definitely something that can be replicated. And I feel that our actual senior leadership for this game will be up for this game. It's not just the Big 12. It's our rivalry game.
This is historic.
Yes.
I mean, and we've talked about it at, a bunch on this channel, and we have a lot of OU fans on here. We are headed into a war, guys. We are headed into a situation where you're playing, our tribal, they hate us, we hate them. Second time, never been done before. And it's for all the marbles in the Big 12. OU playing for a playoff spot. And I think, the next question I had is, what has changed since that day in October? And the first thing you look at is, they fired their defensive coordinator the very next day. But their defense has actually statistically gotten worse. Now, I know OU fan is going to jump on the channel and say, hey, we played better quarterbacks. after the firing, and we hadn't seen Will Greer, we hadn't seen Oklahoma State and some of the things that those guys do. But I think there's also just been some confidence issues with the Oklahoma defense, things that we can take advantage of. The other thing, and I want you to talk about this, up until Kansas, Sam Ehlinger got better as a quarterback.
Mm-hmm. I honestly think that Sam was hurt. Probably shouldn't have been in the game, to tell you the truth, because it affected him. We were talking about this before we started recording, is that there was a couple plays, one where they were crossing and he missed a 5-yard pass basically and almost threw an interception. So with time, and I think Tom Herman touched on it, said that he was going to throw this today and he didn't throw last Tuesday. So practice, and I know
makes you sharp in the game. You can tell.
Yeah, and he's a dog. He's a guy who wants to play and he wants to be out there, especially for a game like this. So I think he'll be ready for this game. Honestly, I think it's just who's going to get the stops, to tell you the truth, because our defense hasn't been the greatest defense, but it hasn't been the worst, at the same time.
Well, let's be real. Until Iowa State, we'd been reeling on defense. Until Iowa State, we just talked about what has changed since the Red River Shootout. We kind of lost sight of everything after the bye week. Now, injuries was a big part of that, and I'm not trying to make an excuse, but we had a lot of guys, in and out of the lineup that wasn't necessarily the case pre-bye. But, since then we have gotten back on track, but that's still a concern. We're not playing, no disrespect to Brock Purdy and the kid over at Kansas.
He's no
it's
Kyler
a different animal.
And they have different types of receivers too. So if we can, they don't have that big catch over the guy. You throw deep to him, and
it's
guys.
Pretty much either Morris or Grant Calcaterra. But in terms of their top two, CD Lamb,
they're speed guys.
Yeah,
if we can keep them contained. We cut down,
which for big chunks of that game we did.
Yes, absolutely.
But with OU, it's just one play. All it takes, and look, let's also talk about what's on the line for them. They're not just playing for a Big 12 championship; they're playing for a playoff spot, potentially trying to out-leverage Ohio State's resume, right? Assuming that Alabama beats Georgia, because we all know, let's just be real with ourselves. Alabama's in regardless. Is Georgia beats Alabama, they're in. They're going to do 2 SEC teams plus Notre Dame and Clemson.
Right.
If those 3 games, or Notre Dame's already in, but if Clemson and Alabama hold up, you already have 3 spots. Now it comes down to Ohio State, who will be playing Northwestern, I believe, later that day, and then Oklahoma. So it's going to come down to resumes, and Ohio State's going to try to put God knows how many points on Northwestern. You saw what they did in the Michigan game. So Oklahoma is not like they're trying to win decisively against Texas, because they're trying to prove, I believe, 2 things to the committee. They need to prove to the committee that their defense is worthy of being in the playoffs, because remember, the committee is judging this on the top 4 teams. So there's a lot on the table for Oklahoma. Now, what does it matter for Texas? There's really no pressure on us in this game. There really isn't. We're 7.5-point underdogs the last I checked. Kyler Murray's playing for the Heisman, as you brought up. They're playing against. They're kind of trying to style point with Ohio State potentially. Texas, Tom Herman, that's the best situation he's been in as a coach.
Yeah, and he's very good at preparing his kids for big games. Yeah, we saw that when he was at Houston against Florida State. We saw it when he played Oklahoma, actually, the next year. The only thing that I think would be a pressure on us is that right now, for this senior class, it's 2-2. And it doesn't mean much, but it does mean a lot to have have that lead over your 4 years in college against your rival.
What are you most concerned about?
I'm most concerned about the defense. Everyone's been talking down about Oklahoma's defense, that you just really need to play good for one game, to tell you the truth. And Sam's shoulder's hurt too. I mean, I think you said it, not a dirty way they could tackle him.
Oh yeah, so we were so fill them in on what we were talking about before we started recording.
So we were talking about Sam's shoulder being affected. Of course, it's we were talking about that from when he actually hurt it.
Sure.
In the Baylor game, that anything can happen if it gets hurt one more time. Say he gets hit and not even late, and the guy lands on his shoulder. Sam's out. I mean, as long as the defensive player is playing physical, that's a legal hit.
And if you're Ruffin McNeil, I'm not saying you resort to roughhouse tactics, no pun intended.
Yeah,
but you might drive him into the ground a little bit more. You might say, "Hey, let's test that shoulder out." It's you brought this up when he first got injured.
It's in the house.
it's an injury that can be easily re-aggravated. So it is, and you know how hard Sam plays. You know how he's gonna go out there and he's gonna lay it all on the line. And Sam, going back to high school when he beat Allen after Kyler left, but and ended the streak, and he just willed his team all the way. I know we always say championship. I know he's going to come out there and give it everything he's got, but OU can leverage that to their advantage as well. And I think a lot of emotions are going to be, that's something we have to worry about. Not getting ahead of themselves. I thought that mentally, even when they got down 7-0 in the Red River shootout, they were mentally sharp. They executed. They didn't get overtly emotional about things, and they just stuck to executing their plays and doing their assignments.
Yeah.
I think in a game like this for both teams, with everything that's online and a lot of the trash talking that's been going on this week, you see Lincoln Riley already putting it out there in the media. Hey, I want to know what the rules are about horns down if my guys score a touchdown because we doing it. You know what I mean? Like those types of things. So it's just in these types of games, sometimes one team can take advantage of the other team's emotion. We've seen that before in other rivalry rematches.
Yep.
There were a few things from Tom Herman's press conference that I wanted to get your thoughts on. So there were two things that I love. And then there was one thing that I absolutely hated that he said. But one of the things that I love is the all hands on deck mentality. And, bringing in Coach David Beatty, who we just played at Kansas, just your thoughts on bringing him as a consultant, just to
I think that's great because he's a big time coach. I know he didn't have the greatest of records at Kansas, but he has that.
He's still highly regarded.
He has that insight that he can provide. That hey, what did we prepare for Texas when we were playing them that made us so good? Dropping our linebackers, showing a blitz, dropping our linebackers into coverage to get those interceptions, things like that. What we saw from a play calling perspective on how we can call our defense towards them. And he not only that, he prepped for Oklahoma, and they played Oklahoma very well too. I think.
Sure.
Would they put a 40 on them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So having another head coach's point of view there as a consultant, it can't hurt. Especially it's no conflict of interest. He's not hired by,
and it's there's no rule against it.
Yeah. So
and that's where you get I think it was the preview video I called Tom Herman a shark, and that's where you see a shark mentality. It's like, look. If it's not cheating by the Big 12 rules, I'm going to do it. Whatever it takes to win, by any means necessary. And that's the mentality he's taken with this. And Lincoln Riley has, he's already kind of come out and said I don't know what kind of precedence this is going to set, blah, blah, blah. Hey, man.
He was the first one to think of it. I bet you if Lincoln thought of it, he'd be doing the same thing.
Yeah,
honestly. I think all coaches would be doing that.
The other thing that I loved was even with the Gary Johnson thing, he's just like, yeah, he's playing. No. It's all hands on deck. We don't know what happened. Now, obviously, he had a child last week.
Yeah. Well, honestly, if you're a player and you're not there for meetings for this week alone, I mean, you shouldn't be playing. But you should want to be there. You should want to go there, beat your rivals to win, play spoiler, and also win the Big 12 championship.
I agree. There was something that he brought up, and it's some people have talked about it on Twitter, and it just annoyed the hell out of me because I've heard him say it before, and he brought it up again. This narrative, please, Tom, And I love what you've done this year. Guys, I made a video after the Maryland game. I said Tom Herman and the problem with Texas football. And in that video was at the time just where are we going as a program and problems that needed to be addressed. And most of those problems he's cleaned up. Some of the things he's handled with flying colors, most notably the quarterback. He has put his stamp on this offense and this quarterback. However, this whole narrative that they're overachieving, that, guys, we only might have one or two guys make all conference, and just the insinuation that there's a talent gap is not only false, but to me, it contradicts your message, because you came into this season. How are you overachieving when you said at the beginning of the season, our goal and expectation is a Big 12 championship? Is a Big 12 championship. So then you're turning around when you do make it and saying, oh, we're overachieving. And I understand how he was trying to spin it with, we're winning on toughness and grit and culture. And it's just like, you have a really talented roster.
Very talented.
You have a very talented. You know what? I'm going to go through something here. 2015, because there are still some guys from that class, that are, most of them are captains, right?
Yeah.
2015, and I know this was a Charlie Strong group, and people love to rail on Charlie guys and all that type of stuff. By the way, Colin Johnson, Michael Dixon, Deshaun Elliott, Malik Jefferson, Lil Jordan Humphrey, they're all Charlie guys. So if you're going to rail on PJ Locke and Chris Boyd, you got to cite the good ones. I digress. 2015, Texas is ranked 10th in recruiting nationally, first in the Big 12. OU that year was ranked 15th nationally, second in the Big 12. 2016, they're ranked 7th nationally, first again in the Big 12. OU was ranked 19th nationally, second in the Big 12. 2017 was the coaching transition year. We still finished 25th nationally and second in the Big 12. OU got up to 8th and finished first. Last year was probably his signature clash, right?
Absolutely.
To get everything going, right?
Absolutely.
We finished third nationally, and this is according to 24/7 Sports. That's the recruiting service I chose to use for this. You can use whatever service you want, but the discrepancies aren't that large. But 2018, Texas is ranked third nationally, first in the Big 12. They were only behind, I believe, Ohio State and Georgia.
Yep.
And then OU was ranked 9th nationally and finished second again in the Big 12. Where's this talent gap? And I'm not just looking at talent from all conference, because all conference can be a very political game and it's subjective. Okay. And some of it is just you playing an offense where you get the ball a little bit more. That doesn't necessarily mean you have a better player. That means you put up the best numbers that year and you deserved honors. But in terms of who the NFL scouts are looking at and where people are going to end up and how many people on our roster would start on OU's defense. So don't sit up here and tell me that you're overachieving and that there's some talent gap. And I'm sorry to go on that rant, John.
No. It's absolutely necessary, because that you pointed it out too. It's definitely from an outsider's point of view, it makes it look like, hey, it was all the coaching that made turn these guys into winners, which, essentially it could be that, because
yes.
Beforehand they weren't winners. I mean, they weren't winning many games beforehand, and now they are. But you don't need to pat yourself on the back publicly about it.
And it's like Tom Herman didn't have to say anything. He had my vote for Big 12 Coach of the Year. Because Lincoln Riley, and I know Lincoln Riley has done an outstanding job, he did have to fire one of his position coaches after a loss, and Tom Herman did beat him in the regular season head-to-head. That's why I'm giving Tom Herman the edge as Big 12 Coach of the Year. I would have preferred him to come up there and talk about a guy like Calvin Anderson or talk about a Trey Watson, guys that have come in as grad transfers and stabilized this program. Yes, you can say, hey, we might not have all the all-conference guys named all-conference because of votes and all this type of stuff. But I'll take Charles Omenihu over anybody. And he did mention Charles Omenihu. But I'll take, Sam Ehlinger. Like, we talk about Sam Ehlinger. But when Sam Ehlinger got here, he was an Elite 11 quarterback, 4 or 5-star recruit depending on service. He was the number 1 quarterback in the state of Texas. Like, you're not Iowa State or Kansas State. And no disrespect to them. But we all know from a talent standpoint, in terms of Dana Holgerson brought this up last year. If we're just picking sides on who we want, players we want to coach and mold, now they've done a good job of cultivating that talent. Like you said, they weren't winning before, and that's why he deserves Coach of the Year, because he's teaching them how to win. But that talent has a lot to do with it. No, Texas is every bit as talented, if in some cases even more talented, than Oklahoma is. So I don't want to hear this overachieving narrative, and it pissed me off. And I'm gonna be off of it now. I want to go to: is there a player or position group or certain players that you think are going to be the keys to the game, win or lose, for Texas?
Defensive backs.
Sorry for the pen, guys. We had the pup run into the room and he didn't want to disturb the video. You were making the point about defensive backs being key to the game, so go ahead and let you finish your point.
Defensive backs, win or lose, I mean, they're going to be the key to the game, honestly. They got those two special wide receivers, Hollywood Brown and CeeDee Lamb, that if we can slow them down, I see us being successful. If we can't, we're done for. Because if those guys get hot, there's no stopping their offense.
Right. For me, Gary Johnson is going to be a big one. Obviously coming off of having him back, I actually have two players. Gary Johnson's one because I think he's one of the guys, few players in this conference with the speed and lateral quickness to at least give Kyler Murray issues. Todd Orlando has one of the best blitzes he's had was when he does a double A gap with Gary, and just having him line up all over the place. Some plays I want to see him playing contain. Other plays I want to see him flying through the A gap, dropping out, just giving them things to think about.
Yep.
Even moving him around even more than what they did in the first game. Because you saw like a couple of years ago, I think it was 2015, when they had Malik Jefferson lining up at like defensive end and just doing weird stuff with him that throws off that system and that offense. So the other player is Trey Watson. He's a guy who's gotten better since the last time we played. Trey Watson's playing some of his best ball of the year right now. Is he on the level of Apuka Williams? No. But him, as well as Keontae Ingram, who's kind of slowed down a little bit. But I look for those two guys to have big days against, and that's where they can get some of the insight from Coach Beatty with what Puko did running for 250. So those are going to be my two guys that I look at changing the game. Y'all let us know in the comments, if there's a game break or anything. Any hot takes you got? I got a hot take. I think we're going to get a play on offense over 50 yards. I don't know why. We're due. That's all I'm going to say.
Hot take. I think we are going to give up a special teams touchdown.
Ooh, I hope you're wrong about that.
Yeah, but I think we are.
So real quick, because we got to end the video off, and I want to touch on Mack Brown. Predictions.
I think, even though I did just say that we're going to give up a special teams touchdown, I feel like we're going to do enough to win. I don't know why. I just have that feeling. I can't put anything in concrete or anything.
Is it gonna? What's the range of the score for you?
I think it's gonna be another close one, honestly. And
do you think it's gonna be like in the 40s? Do you think we go like super Big 12 shootout?
No, I don't think it's going to be a big 12 shootout. I think it's gonna be one team's gonna hit 40, and it's gonna be 30,
like 41-38 or something like that. Yeah. My head is saying OU, and if I had to bet on the game, I would pick OU, and it hurts me to say that with everything that's on the table. I think that OU, yes, there is a lot of pressure on them with everything they have to play for, but they're trying to get in the, not only are they trying to get in the playoffs, and that shouldn't matter who's better or not, but it's hard to beat the same team twice.
Yeah,
they do have the best player on the field. And that's no slight to any of our guys, and it's not a talent gap. That's just Kyler Murray's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
But I just think that at some point they're gonna make a play or do something, and it might be insurmountable for us. I do think we're gonna cover that 7.5. I think it'll be somewhere 3 to 6 points where we potentially might even have the ball at the end, trying to win the game. But hopefully I'm wrong. We go in there, win the Big 12 championship. But I am going to pick officially on record OU to win the game. Don't unfollow or unsubscribe from the channel for me being objective. But no, a lot of respect to those guys. And again, more roll call. Y'all let me know where you guys are. Love to chit chat. Just to finish off, quick thoughts on Mack Brown, officially the head coach of North Carolina Tar Heels again.
I saw the reports beforehand that they were thinking of him.
Yes.
I was shocked that he actually went through with it because he had a pretty cush gig at ESPN and he was still getting paid Texas money. And, he got to hang out with his wife all day.
Sure.
And so I'm shocked. I mean, if he can get Gene Chizik and Cliff Kingsbury to come, I think that will be a scary team in the ACC.
That would be, that would even make Clemson sweat a little bit over time, I would think. I watched some of his press conference today. It's funny seeing Mack and his Mackisms back at the, at the podium and whatnot. It's good for college football. I'll forever love Mack.
Yes.
But, I do worry with him at this age and just not even his age, but just the comfort level he's had being at ESPN. Anytime you see these coaches come back, I know Herm Edwards had a good year and he seemed to, but he got a good staff. And I think that's really key for Mack. And when Mack, like I've said before, when I talked about the Tom Herman video, if you can get yourself a good staff, he can get some young, energetic people around him because he's going to recruit his butt off. He has the inroads with the high school coaches. He screams credibility when he walks into a kid's living room. But, just wanted to give a shout out to Mack. Mm-hmm. He'll always be a Texas Longhorn. And
always.
I do wish him the best of luck at North Carolina and his opportunity. We'll be up there Saturday morning, guys. We are excited.
And nervous.
Texas. I know I'm not picking y'all, but please prove me wrong. Please.
Hopefully we're cutting Brecken's hair.
Please. That would be so fun.
Yes.
I mean, geez, man. We need this. As a fan base, and look, I will give Tom Herman one last point. Recognizing the opportunity of the importance and the magnitude that this will bring to our program. I am seeing that from Tom Herman. He's in a great spot. We'll see what happens. Appreciate y'all. Horns always up.